I got an interesting email from John Cowan beforehand. It had his name at the top of it, so I knew it was from him. It said the title, which is "Somehow This Is All Your Fault," and I thought, well, that's typical John, isn't it? But there was no text. There was nothing that followed on from that. So I sent him a passive-aggressive text message to say, "Hey, John, there's no text in the email you sent me." No, actually, it was all my fault. It wasn't John's fault. I was just trying to blame him for my technical ineptitude, which leads us nicely to this week's topic. John, kia ora, good morning.
Good morning. And yes, it's very appropriate. Talking about something perhaps inappropriate, unrelated, I learnt the clarinet for a while at school.
Oh, dear.
And the main thing I learnt is that if you get your mouth wrong, it makes a horrible squawking noise.
It does, yes.
But I learnt this valuable skill. Whenever I made my clarinet squawk, I would turn my eyes accusingly on the person next to me. So hopefully the teacher would think that it was that person. And that might be a valuable skill for anybody learning the clarinet.
I think the lesson from this one is you've just got to find a different way for social ridicule than learning the clarinet. Actually,
yes, I have mastered many techniques.
Put down the clarinet, I think, is the wisdom that we should get from that one. But, I mean, talking about, I suppose, the lies we tell ourselves, the excuses that we use for our own ineptitude. I mean, some people have made some pretty good careers out of this.
Oh, but look, it's a very wonderful, it's a great advantage of being married. It's a wonderful, marriage creates lots and lots of opportunities to blame one's partner for whatever misfortune or shortcoming or failure you might encounter, with barely any effort at all.
Yeah.
You can make them the scapegoat for anything in your life that you find disagreeable. It's possible to blame your partner for your unhappiness, your lack of money, any problems with the kids. It's all your fault.
Wow.
I mean, you can even blame your partner for your own heavy drinking, your own poor career choices, for being overweight. I can with lots of practice, I can blame my wife for anything that goes wrong with the car, for anything unsatisfactory about a motel we might book into, and you can make it your partner's fault that you are now so old. It's possible to do this in your head. A master scapegoater can scrape his car on the garage door and somehow in the Soviet-style courtroom of his mind convict his partner for his own crime and condemn her to some emotional gulag. I mean, you don't actually have to voice the accusations. They can just be repeated and rehearsed and spun around in your own head.
Festering away, yeah.
Yeah, so that you're not beating yourself up. You're beating them up in your head. Sometimes it'll spill over into grizzle. Sometimes you just console yourself that you're being a wonderful person to be such a martyr to put up with such an inept person. But more often these accusations just float out from your mind and onto your face as some sort of passive-aggressive expression of disappointment or barely suppressed anger or chilly disinterest. You've found them guilty and you're going to make them suffer.
Yeah. This is actually something that we were talking about earlier in the program, actually. And it's part of the issue here is that the accused has no idea of what they're accused of. That if we've decided that they're guilty or it's their fault that they've done all these things, often they have no idea of their supposed guilt in this. And if there's no communication, there can be no restoration.
Right, yeah, it's very reminiscent of Stalin's purge in the 1930s, people being pulled off to stand in courtrooms and to be accused of things they had no idea about. But anyhow, I just want to say, let's not do it, because for a number of reasons. I'll give you the reasons. Scapegoating is a surrender to your problems in life. It never conquers them. You never rise up over your poor decision making or those things that are holding you back at work or those poor, whatever it is, if you're blaming someone else. And in the relationship, it never makes a relationship better. One of the things I often think about is that why aren't people more grateful when I've pointed out how wrong they are? and it's even worse when they're not wrong at all. It's you that's wrong.
Yes, exactly. Like that incident with the text and the email that you sent me. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that burn, John.
It hasn't made our relationship better.
No.
um, if your partner believes you're gaslighting, gaslighting is that term that people use for, making someone else feel bad or believe bad things about themselves. It makes them sad and neurotic. But you've probably been clever enough to marry or partner yourself with someone who's clever enough to realize that these accusations are false, and it leads to resentment. They like you less.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, it prevents addressing the real root causes of your problems anyway. One of the things it does do is it builds a fragility into your relationship. So if any big trauma does come along, a bereavement, an illness, losing your job, something like that, the relationship could bust apart. Because there is this automatic turning it on to the other person. And I mean, couples that survive tough times, they still feel the same guilt and anguish and everything like that, but they own it. They don't give it to their partner as a sort of an awful thing. Another thing is doing the scapegoating. It's a lie. My dad was not much of a Bible scholar, but he did used to combine two Bible verses, Proverbs 12:22 and Psalm 46:1. Lying is an abomination to the Lord and an ever-ready help in a time of trouble. And unfortunately, we get into this habit of lying, even if we're not expressing it to other people, but just expressing it to ourselves. It corrodes your character like all lying does. And finally, just to echo something that I was talking about last week, it's proof of immaturity. Real immaturity is all about owning up to your own faults and mistakes and fronting up to them and changing them. And so there you go. That's my 2 cents worth.
No, hey, very much appreciated. And just wanting to say for people that are listening to this that don't have a spouse to scapegoat onto, we can always blame our parents for our genes, and we can blame the dog for farts and all sorts of things like that as well. Even if you're not married, this is something that you should definitely avoid.
Oh, yes. It's a skill which is a transferable skill, I think they call it, isn't it? You can blame your boss, you can blame the government, you can blame God, you can blame all sorts of different entities and people for your failings and things. But hey, maturity is saying, oops, this could be actually me. I better do something about it.
Exactly. Hey, John, thank you for your wisdom and misquoting the Bible. Now there's a good memory verse to work on for next week. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.